Today we're going to talk about some of the worst epics inside the game. By no means is this the extensive definitive list. Hey guys, Ash here coming at you today in Watcher of Realms. Welcome to the video. I'm glad to have you all here with me today. What could be better? Hey, listen, sending some love, some positive vibe your way if you need it out there today. But these are, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 or so epics.
And now make up your mind.
That I think need a buff. And I would love to see Moonton go in and buff not just legendaries, even though they haven't done a lot of that either lately, right? To be honest. But even touch up some of these epics, because the truth be told is a lot of these epics seem like they could be very good. They could be very cool and a nice addition to any account out there. So with some simple buffs that we can talk about a little bit along the way, most of them are just going to be damage, honestly, more damage out of these DPS units. But beyond that as well, how could we make these heroes a little bit more viable inside the game? Oh, you know what? Let's just start with probably the most obvious, the one who I still get ish about to this day, and it's Titus, my man, the most expensive cost unit inside the entire game.
Yes, I am!
Save that for your trivia night, boys and girls, because 31 costs for this behemoth of a defender. He's good at blocking and he can revive himself. He cannot be healed though. Just like every single hero on this list, I actually think they're viable in Faction Wars. This game doesn't have many heroes to begin with, and they're not adding very compelling epics on a day-to-day basis. So if you want to get your hands on a hero that you can, it's easier to actually awaken them and take advantage of their complete kit, well, epics like Titus, you're probably going to be using. I use him in Infernal Faction Trials, and honestly, he's a huge part of my team. I could say the same, I should say, about every hero on the list here, so I figured I'd mention it with Titus first and foremost, and then I don't have to give that disclaimer on every single hero, because inevitably I know there's going to be some people in the comments, dude, I love this hero, what are you talking about, Ash? But yeah, I mean, for a 31 cost, literally you can get 2 defenders for that cost, right? You'd hope he can be healed. I think the easiest way to rework Titus is obviously, one, you could bring his cost down like 10 and he'd still be just okay, right? But moreover, another way to rework him is unable to be healed by allies, change that to all healing effects by all allies are cut in half, right? Keep everything else the same, but a defender that you cannot heal is tricky to depend on, right? So there you go. I'm sorry, Titus. I love you, big fella. I love you, but you're not it. You're not, unfortunately. All right, next up, guys, Bruno. Bruno is another dude. I don't like talking about heroes that I haven't invested in. So I haven't taken all of these heroes to fully awakened, fully skilled on every single one, but I have extensively used all of them at least. And Bruno, man, again, for Infernal and Northerner, I tried him in Northerner, didn't stick there. But using him in Faction Trials is okay. He does have a range boost, as you guys can see. The problem is, and I'm going to keep it super simple on him, right? First of all, he kind of reminds me a little bit of a Crash, and I harbor some resentment against Crash for being one of the worst legendaries in the game. He's like the epic version of Crash, right? He's a marksman, and he costs 19, and he doesn't do a lot of damage, right? He does have that extended range on his ultimate that has 1,000 cost. So yeah, that's expensive. You can, of course, book it down. Initial rage 400 and skill cost minus 100, but still is expensive. And all we're really getting is a little bit extra attack, the ability to wreak AoE damage lasting 25 seconds that doesn't really seem to add up to anything significant. It's just not it's a damage issue with Bruno, right? So give him more damage and sign me up, right? He'd actually be a pretty cool marksman, kind of like his big brother, big cousin Crash. You know what, guys? I think there's a lot about epics in Historia order. The esoterists, as they say, are not that good. Nasalt, my man. Now, I was talking specifically about Nasalt when I said that some of these epics are super cool. Now, with the poison changing coming to the game, who knows? Maybe Nasalt is actually, halfway decent, a little bit better. I'm not really holding my breath, but the cool thing is this lizard, he looks cool, first of all. I like his aesthetics, right? And his talent is very unique. He's got burning, he's got poison. His talent is when deployed, starts using alchemy, produces 3 magic vials every 10 seconds. Re-enter alchemy state after all vials are consumed. Problem is you play this dude, and it feels like he takes forever to actually start making his vials, right? They take 10 seconds to produce. So you're basically going to be placing him, and it's going to feel like you're waiting for him to do something the majority of the battle when he's not in his ultimate, because in his ultimate, he gains infinite magic vials for 15 seconds. So what does magic vials do, right? The more poison vials produced, the higher the damage, up to 40% extra. The more combustible vials produced, the more targets the fire can spread to, up to 3. And the effect will be reset when the alchemy is re-triggered. So throws a magic vial at one enemy, 220% magic damage, inflicting a burning or poison for 5 seconds. That's it. So he's bringing the vials, and that's what makes his basic attack work, essentially, until he has unlimited vials from the bottomless flask, right? Magic vials can also trigger a reaction between burning and poison inflicted on enemies, and can cause toxic fire. That's 40% magic damage per second, which can be considered as burning. So burning, basically, right?
Too much information.
I don't know. This kid, again, it seems cool. What do the ratings say about this dude anyway? They give him pretty bad scores. Really fun mechanic, like for them to buff him. Wow, it's actually a legitimate #1. I'm gonna actually, for the first time ever, oh, I've already liked it. For the first time ever, I'm actually gonna like a comment that makes sense. 20 seconds till he shoots his basic, they say. So you guys get it. You know, users out there, they understand the downside of Assault. Again, the kit looks kind of cool. It could be cool, right? Cyclone, this dude, I wish he was good because he looks so cool, right? I mean, they nailed it. You don't get, you know, obviously I play majority Raid Shadow Legends, right? I obviously play this game as well. But I like how they go, like with Titus and with Cyclone, their aesthetic in this game, it's a bit more diverse than just medieval, you know? And I kind of like that. What about you guys? Even though personally I'm kind of a D&D Dungeons Dragons type of guy, like that's my favorite. But I appreciate, you know, the diversity in this game as well. How do you guys feel about that? Anyway, he's a fighter. He's interesting. I mean, like, obviously he doesn't have a body. There's that. He gains 20% chance of dodge. Dodge is when attacked becomes immune to the damage, which is pretty cool. But everything else is kind of meh on this dude. He knocks back blocked enemies as a fighter, meh, with 2x strength, dealing 140% damage, inflicting stun for a second and a half. And then after a dodge, the next attack deals 110% damage and knocks back the enemies. So he's got a little knockback, and he has a chance of not taking damage as a fighter, not a defender. Why are we using him again? For a little bit of knockback? No. Compare that to somebody like, I don't know, half the heroes in the game with way better control than him, or damage, or a kit that makes any sort of sense. How would you buff this dude, man? What do we want to do? What do we want to do here? How about a massive AoE stun? Because he's a Cyclone. He's the Twister. It's Wizard of Oz style, and we're not in Kansas anymore. That's what I want from this dude. When he's a Cyclone, I want him to Cyclone like a NATO all around the entire map and suck everybody up and do crazy stuff like Iona, but he doesn't do any of that. He needs, to me, a big rework, and he ought to be cool. He looks so cool, so he should be cool, damn it. Next is gonna be CCATH. Oh, CCATH. This dude, I was hoping for like some damage, honestly. I was like, you know what? Maybe some damage out of this dude would be nice. That's all I'm asking for, right? And he didn't even deliver that. So he has a cost of 18. He's a mage, a magic mage. He creates an enchanted bubble, which after hitting the target can bounce to another enemy in range, can bounce one time, will not hit the target multiple times. So it's like, okay, bounce sounds good, but or you could just have an AoE and hit 100 targets or whatever the heck it is, you know? So he has an enchanted bubble that attacks enemies and deals enemies potentially 2, right? And deals 100% damage, deals an extra 30% damage to the last target. Okay. His ultimate triggers Savagery Ritual. Now, this is the only good, in my opinion, this is the only like really useful part of his kit. Increases his attack speed by 160, which sounds like a lot, but it's nothing compared to a lot of the increased attack speed ultimates in the game. Talking 5, 6, 7, 800 attack speed, right? He does grant attack speed increase to all allies in range. His range is pretty good as well. It's attack speed plus 30. I don't know, for an attack speed buff triggered on a 10-second ultimate to be the highlight of a kit, it's just not enough, right? It's not enough. Now, Enchanted Bubble gains increasing direct and blast damage over its duration, reaching a maximum of 50% direct damage and a 30% blast damage. And of course, he does get more powerful as he awakens, like all of these heroes. There's not, like, what does this dude want to be? A buffer? A damage dealer? What do the ratings say about him? Don't know that, don't know that. He's wet, okay? Weak needs a buff. There we go. Better than rated, try him out. So, hey, there's a good monster. So there's going to be differing opinions on all of these heroes, but I would like to see a buff to CCATH. Why not make his bounce 5 times? You know, then you can really take advantage of the extra damage per bounce on the Gift from the Deep, right? I think that would be a nice buff to him. And I actually do not think it would like break him or anything like that. All right, let's go to the Cultist. Oh, Siren. This dude looks like a monster. And honestly, he does a lot more damage than all of the other heroes that we've spoken about today. And he ought to do a lot more damage because he costs 25. Oof. I don't know if Powercreeps is the right word because this game's only been around for about a year, but I feel like now with the heroes that we just get basically in this game, you know, Greed, right, being one of them, I feel like there's no need for an Osiren because you can get a lot better through a ton of epics in the game, right? And then obviously legendaries as well. So yes, he has an AoE ground effect type thing. He could target multiple enemies for 5 seconds. Airborne, take half damage. Okay, cool. He deals 50% AoE damage to targets in a large ground area effect, kind of like a mini Zealous type thing, right? Ahead per second of 10 seconds. Airborne units again take half damage. The problem is it's very simple on this dude, right? He actually deals 30% extra damage to targets with below 50% HP. He actually has like a pretty decent damage off of this basic attack, but the Soul Burn Rift, the ultimate, right? 50% AoE damage. Granted, a nice large range, which is nice. I really would buff the AoE damage that you get off of his Soulburn Rift to make it justifiable that his cost is 25. Not a useless epic, certainly can be a great damage dealer, especially for cultists, faction trials. But I mean, Iona blows him away damage-wise, and she only costs 17, right? So I would love to see a buff for him. Again, I'm picking heroes here that I think could be really compelling. You could just buff up that ultimate to me, or you could reduce his cost. He feels to me like more of a 19 cost unit, honestly. So I think he's a bit too expensive there. All right, guys, I wanted to give not even an honorable mention. Aatrox and Demon, he's Nightmare, right? Aatrox and Damon, my bad. Both of these, when I do these videos, I like to kind of consult tier lists, right? And Demon and Aatrox were both at the bottom of almost every list. My bucket had Aatrox as his worst ranked epic hero in the game. And I love these two heroes, right? They're the kind that do damage and they die with very, very short revival times. They're niche, but they're kind of instant burst damage and then they die. And to me, they're meant to be cycled. So I respectfully disagree because I know there's going to be some people in the comments that ask about both of these heroes. I actually like them. I mean, sure, if they want to buff them, that'd be cool too. But I don't rank them that low. I actually rank them pretty high, I would say, you know? What about you guys? How do you feel there? And I say all that with, you know, I called out my bucket there. I think he's a billion times more knowledgeable in the game than I am. As a disclaimer, I just disagree on this one. The last one that I have for you guys is actually going to be a Northerner. I say that because they look, well, they both, you know, they're fish, right? Maul, to me, is one of the best epics, certainly one of the best epics marksmen out there in the game. Harpoon, though, no. Now, the good thing about Harpoon is, you know, I give a lot of flack to expensive units out there, the costly units, but this dude is very cheap. So at least he's got that going for him. Honestly, I think for faction trials, he's a great investment because he's cheap and he can do a teeny tiny bit of damage, right? The cool thing is his kit is interesting, right? He has such a cheap arrow bombardment. It's not very good, I mean, but considering the cost, it is very good. He unleashes a volley of 3 arrows towards one target, dealing 120% damage. It's nothing special, but he does it so frequently because of that very, very low cost. So between his low cost and then the rage cost of his ultimate, I actually think, and it's auto, I actually think that he's pretty dang fun to play around with. But even with that, right, just having an ultimate that has you attack 3 times quick, you know, isn't really enough. If an enemy is killed by arrow bombardment, which is his ultimate, increases attack speed by 90 for 5 seconds. The problem is just not a lot of damage, really, you know, but super cool foundation of a kit that could be awesome. When shielded, he ignores 30% of the target's defense on A1. Okay. I mean, they could get rid of that. They could just say it ignores 30% of the target's defense, and because he hits so weakly, I feel like it wouldn't be that big. It wouldn't be that broken of a buff, right? It would be substantial for sure. If an enemy is killed with arrows bombardment, gains 80 rage on his A3. On A5, a crit hit grants a shield that can absorb damage equal to 25% of max HP for 6 seconds. So when you have him A5, he actually generates his own shield, which plays very well with his passive. So there is that. I just want to see a DPS buff to him. Guys, there's a lot of bad epics in the game. Let's be real. Which ones did I not name that you would put in your I want to see a buff to these epic heroes list? Thanks for watching till the end of the video. Much love, and as always, take care, guys.